Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carl Prusa MMA. I am Carl Prusa today. I am with Prospect, MMA Prospect. He is Mr. Dakota Hope, getting ready for a big LFA contest going down June 13th against Jeremy Henry. Dakota, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you. How you doing, Carlo?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. We just got a surprise cat visit just now, getting ready. Everyone excited for the interview today. Man, you've been doing really good things in the sport. You're considered a top prospect right now. You have a great 8-1 record. One thing that a lot of people like about you, man, you're an exciting fighter, dude. You go out there, you bring it. You have some good wins by finishes. Whether it be with the hands, whether it be on the ground. For you, do you take a lot of pride in your entertaining fighting style?
Thank you. I appreciate that, Carlo. And I do. I take a lot of pride in that because, like a lot of guys now we see it at the top level. Of course, you being the connoisseur of MMA that you are, you see it too. The finishes are, and the UFC, the top level PFL, they're looking for finishers. So I take a lot of pride in that because when I feel like you said, when you have a lot of finishes the way I do, and you're exciting, people know even if you go to a decision, it's not for lack of trying to get to the finish. I feel like that puts me in a different space for future, I'll say employers, the big show. And I feel like too at fighters, I feel like a lot of fighters go out there and they're trying to I feel like a lot of them they're trying to just win a decision. It's like that competitor versus fighter mindset.
Absolutely, man. You could do so many things in this life. There's so many different occupations, there's so many professions. You
That's
chose to go down the role of trying to become a professional mixed martial artist. I mean, you are a professional mixed martial artist. Let me take that back. Obviously, trying to go to those big shows like those UFC,
it.
those PFLs, those ones. Why? Why this journey?
I know exactly what you meant by that. Like I don't even like I'm the same way. Like when I talk to my father, he always says like, when you go pro, I'm like, I am pro. We mean like the top level, because that's like you said, that's what we're going for. If you're not trying to be the best in the world at the top, no point in doing it.
Absolutely. You're getting ready for a big LFA contest. Beforehand, you were able to find some good regional promotions. Peak Fighting, definitely one of them. You were able to win that belt there, defend it a couple of times. What was that whole experience like, being able to win a professional title and then defend it?
It was it was really good experience. I'm really grateful for my time there. As with every promotion, but it's like you said, it was the best thing about fighting there for them was the fact that I got the 5 round experience. And as that 5 round experience, so many guys and girls they get into they get to the top level and they don't have 5 round experience. And even you saw with the Carlos Prates Ian Gary fight a couple weeks back, it's like Prates. You saw he wasn't really gassed at the end and he was going for the finish, but it's like he was trying to allot his cardio per round. And I feel like a lot of these, guys and girls struggle to do that even when they get into the top 10, top 15, top 5, because, you know, they they're not used to going those rounds. Even if they're decision fighters, they're still not used to going to a 5 round. And you got to have a different level of mindset at 5 rounds. And that was a big thing. I'm grateful for fighting and being able to defend a professional title like that as a champion.
You're alluding to the Mike Tukto fight, the one that went the final 5 rounds, the title defense. Following that victory, that really reinforced to you that, what, man, I can do this. I can fight at the highest level.
Yes, and it did. It really let me know that because we always had that belief, in ourselves. We tell ourselves we can do this, wherever anything it may be, but until you actually get in there and do it, you don't really know. So it was definitely a good feeling of being in, be able to get in there and do that and handle business and put on statement wins like that.
You're not in the UFC quite yet, but you've really traveled the world with your mixed martial arts career. Right now you're in Canada, over in Montreal area. You've trained out in Thailand before. You fought in China. What has it been like to be able to travel the world with this passion of mixed martial arts?
It's been really great, and thankfully I've had a lot of people that support me, a lot of the coaches and teams I'm with, and I've been am sponsored by That's been great to have people like that. Like now in Montreal, I'm with a phenomenal team here, Team 360 Gym, and the head coach here and owner Seafood Mark Bokamp. We're here now with these guys, and again, when you have people like that that are really, even though he's head coach master what he does, he's still a student of fighting. So he really, people like that, they want to win, they want victory, so they provide fighters like myself that are dedicated with the opportunities to train and travel across the world like that. So, like I said, here at Team 360 in Montreal with Sifu Mark, it's a great opportunity and experience here learning from him. And like over in China when I was living there and training there, that's my current team with is Sunken as well. And it was a great experience there. You were like-minded people. That's the thing when you get on these teams where you're sponsoring, they handpick people. You're not, they separate the wheat from the chaff. You're there because they said, okay, we like this fighter, we like this fighter. We're gonna bring you here if you work out. You got a process. Like when I was first in China living over there, they had an elimination process, and a lot of guys didn't make it. They had us in that cold upper room where the window would not close, which was cool in the summertime because it was pretty mild in Qingdao. Then in the wintertime, it was cold as hell, so you're freezing your ass off in the blankets. And a lot of people didn't make it to go down into the lower rooms in the apartment buildings where you had your own room. So again, it's great experience going around the world like that because, when you're sponsored by a team like that, everybody there is there for the same purpose, whether they're from, Dagestan, Kazakhstan, Qingdao, Sichuan province, uh, you're all there because you want to be the best in the world. So that's been a really good opportunity to do that and see how other people train and live and just to pick the minds of different coaches and things like that and learn from them.
So many people watch the sport in this day and age. It's something that is as culturally accepted as basketball and baseball and football. I remember when I first started watching the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner had that absolute war back in 2005. I would tell people I'm watching this, and a lot of people look at me, what? You're watching that stuff, that crazy stuff? Well, this is now, very mainstream culture accepted and a great way for people to make a living,
Yeah,
through the sport and through their love of mixed martial arts. But there's a big misunderstanding. A lot of people look at the big names, right? They look at the McGregors, the John Joneses, the Habibs, and they're like, wow, this is the greatest life ever. They see the fame, they see the fortune of it. They don't see the climb to get there, man. You know how it is. Battling on the regional scene, you're not making millions of dollars. A lot of guys have to have that 9 to 5 job, right? Some have kids, some have a wife. You don't really get to see family too often. You miss birthdays, Thanksgivings, weddings, dinners, all this stuff. You stay up really late. You wake up early. You do it day in and day out just for the chance to maybe fight in one of these big promotions. You've been doing this a long time. You've been making a lot of steam on the regional scene, and for good reason. What's made you want to keep going and keep kicking?
everything you just said, that's like I talk about that so much with a lot of my my friends, and that's like it's you literally just said everything people don't understand. You know how it is. You even you'll meet a girl and they think, oh, MMA, and it's like no. It's I'm lying. They don't even say MMA. They say, "Oh, UFC. You do UFC." It's like, no, no, I don't do UFC. you know, Not yet. It's just like I'm still over here. We still over here fighting for the thousands. The low end thousands. So like you said, when you're doing that, that's why it's so important to have supportive team and people around you that can help out. Because like you said, it's such a climb to get there and that's one thing that I will say. I don't know why the U.S. has not caught on to it yet. Europe has even caught on to it yet, but in Asia, specifically, China and Thailand, with these countries where like my current team, Sunken Fight Club, Sunken International Fight Club, where they sponsor these fighters, they handpick them and they grow them, they cover everything, food, housing, medical, and for the life of me, I just can't understand as big as it is, like you just said, as long as you've been watching and consuming MMA, studying it, I don't know why that hasn't picked up in a country that's as central to it and is rich as the US is. I don't know why we're behind in that. It's like I don't get that for the life of me. And everything you just said, I really feel like so many more fighters that are at that level. The guys like you said that have kids, gotta work that 9 to 5. We sacrifice so much and that's pulled away from what we could put into the fighting because we have so much going on. Nobody likes to make excuses. That's why I never make any. But it's like you just said, that because you're grassroots at the ground level. You're talking to guys like me and these other and female fighters that we have the struggle trying to make it to the top, and it's like you caught where it's like you might fight somebody that you're better than, but you didn't even get enough prep time because you over here taking care of your family, working, and so you're really going in there a fraction of yourself. So I really feel like that's the part that people don't see that you just brought up. So it's good on you that you brought that up and you see that, because so many people don't. They just think it's like, oh, they go in there, you say one thing and they're like, oh, he's making excuses. But that's
Uh,
real. People got families, man.
oh, absolutely. It's definitely a crazy life. For you, what does it mean to call yourself a martial artist?
For me to call myself a martial artist, it means sticking to a central quest, should I say, and following through and knowing what's at the end is worth all the suffering and misery and pain, mentally and physically, that I put myself through on a daily basis willingly. A martial artist, it's everybody always says like this cliche stuff is not about the destination, it's about the journey. But for me, like the more you, like you said, you obviously done a lot of research on me. When you're traveling around the world, you literally, you're at your lowest. I have siblings I haven't seen, in 6 and 7 years, you know. So it's just like when you do that, you really do realize it's about the journey, because when I do get to the destination, which which I will, you know, you're gonna realize that it's like it was all worth it. So for me, being a martial artist just means taking everything that I'm picking up along the way in the journey and using that to defeat my opponents. And a big part of it is, like how I look at it, we can't be warriors back in the day swinging swords and axes anymore, but I really do look at it like that. That's the beauty in it. I like that feeling of knowing it's another guy that's somewhere in the world at his gym preparing, studying me, watching me, all my film, telling himself, telling his family, putting so much stock in the fact that he believes he has what it takes, when I truly know in every fiber of my being he doesn't have what it takes, which is why he's going to lose. So I really, get off on that, so to speak. That it's like that primal, you're in there and they're doing all this training to beat you, but no, I got what it takes. And y'all are in there and you get to basically show him and everybody who supports him he didn't have what it takes. So I really get off on that, because that means I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and my team, to support me, Sifu, Mark, Jeremy, Coach Jeremy Blaine, it means we're doing what we need to do. So it's like that for me. I look at it like a bit more. I guess you could say like, I don't know what the word for that would be. Like I look at it like it's modern day Coliseum type stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's another misconception from a lot of people when they look at mixed martial artists. So obviously they get the gist of it, right? They get that you're training, you're going to fight, you're trying to go up in rankings, maybe trying to make the UFC, win belts, all that. They get that. But what they don't see is the fight outside of the fight. The fight to not have to clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock out at 5 p.m. The fight to secure financial freedom. The fight to live a life on your own terms, not have to give in the societal norms, do something you want your way, live out your life to your passion, and achieve your ultimate destiny. For you, is that another reason why you're going down this journey?
Yes, for me, that's another huge reason. And like you said, the societal norms, that's another thing, and it's so much goes into that. I can't speak on all fighters, but I agree with everything you just said with that. And you sacrifice so much, whether it be relationships. We were just talking about, the nightlife earlier. It's so much that you can't do if you want to get to the top and beat that person, because you sacrifice so much. So it's like, okay, why stop now when you're like when you're right there? Why? And it's so much of that. And like you said, societal norms is huge. You got so many people that are in your ear, like, oh, you could, like you said earlier, you could be doing anything. You could be doing anything, but it's like, yeah, but I'm doing this. So it's like, I'm either going to get where I need to do, like you said, financial freedom, or I'm going to die trying, you know. And, I don't try, I do. So I'm going to get there.
For you, what's the ultimate goal? What are you wanting to achieve?
My ultimate goal, which of course first starts with me finishing Jeremy Henry on June 13th, which I will do. After that is to get to the UFC and become the UFC world champion. Work my way up the rankings and do that. And I will do that. That's the ultimate goal, and a wish without hard work behind it and blood is just you lying to yourself. So I'm doing the work I need to do it. I'm talking with, you. So I feel like something's, I'm doing something right over here. I'm not just chilling. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate the kind words there. But so, yeah, you're taking on Jeremy Hendry going down LFA 210, June 13th. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent?
Jeremy is a phenomenal opponent. He's very dangerous. He's a real mixed martial artist. He comes in with a lot of power, a lot of athleticism, uh, you know, uh, great conditioning. He's good in really all his ranges. He doesn't really have a weakness anywhere. And that's great. That's why this fight is gonna be so great when I beat him and I finish him, because that's one of those fights where it's like could have got somebody else, could have took somebody else, but I didn't. I got this guy because you finish a guy like that. I mean, to be honest, if you're not beating and finishing guys like that on this regional level, what do you think is gonna happen when you step up and now you're in there with a Ilya Taporia, a Max Holloway? So you need to do what I'm going to do on June 13th and finish the guys like Jeremy Henry to get you there. There's definitely going to be blood in there. More of mine than his is the plan. But either way, if I got to give more than he does, he's still going to lose. But he's really good. Not to give too much what we're going to do away. Our focus is just to, I've been working a lot with our coaches here, Sifu Mark, Jeremy Blaine. We've been working on keeping the fight where we want it. So obviously that's the striking range. We want to keep him at range. We know he does like to grapple, so we're keeping him away from that grappling range and staying in our boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai range. He hides it. He hides it a lot with his striking, as you've probably noticed, but he's constantly going for his grappling. So the minute we touch him, he's gonna go to what he likes to do, which is grapple. I think a lot of people get lost in him doing his thing and all the striking, but we know he's gonna go in there trying to grapple us. As soon as he gets touched, he's gonna be like everybody else that gets touched by me, and they're gonna want to get closer and minimize the distance so I can't generate power. But we've been doing great with just framing away and executing a game plan where we keep this at range in our stand up. I ain't been on talent for the last 2 years to just go in there and not put on a Thai kickboxing clinic, Thai boxing clinic.
Starting in August on Tuesdays, there's a show. You've probably heard of it. It's called the Dana White Contender Series. With the win over Jeremy, is this where we're possibly eyeing?
After I win against Jeremy Henry and finish him in June, I do believe that is a logical next step. If they call me for short notice, I'm also there. So of course, like you say, took the words out of my mouth. That Contender Series is right there. But again, it all goes through that one man, Jeremy Henry, on June 13th. So I'm firmly trained and just prepare for him and looking for him. I go to sleep thinking about him, wake up sleeping thinking about him, because like you said back, you said it a couple minutes ago, that financial freedom. At the end of the day, that's what we all want. We wanna live out our dreams. We wanna be who we wanna be in the way we want. But the difference between people like you and I and other people we're doing what we love to reach financial freedom. So The journey is a bit, longer for us, a bit more, rigorous, shall we say. But, we're going to get there. And like you said, Contender Series, UFC short notice, it all goes through Jeremy Henry. That's why I'm glad that he actually signed up because, I'm not going to talk about a lot of people, but a lot of fighters aren't signing up.
Knowing that you're close, you're already 8-1 now, fighting on LFA, one of the top promotions for guys to get into the UFC. Do you think more of the finish right now? Obviously, you talked about it. You mentioned yourself, these big promotions, they like excitement, right? They want guys getting knocked out. They want guys constantly going for the finish. Is this something that's even more of a goal in your head?
100%. Yes, Carlo, that finish. I'm all about finishes. Like you said, I'm an exciting fighter. We prepare, like we said, like somebody today, he said, yeah, man, I'm ready. I want to come see you get that one punch knockout. And I'm like, I just looked at him. I said, yeah. I said, whether it's one punch or 1,000 punches, he will fall. He's gonna be finished by me. But he's gonna get finished for sure. And that you've watched plenty of film. I'm sure you studied us both. He leaves himself open, very open, and that's not something he can fix. Between him listening to this interview, trying to listen to something, he can't fix that by June, because the reality of it is he does certain things when he's hurt and panicked, and that's something you can't teach. It's like we saw that with the Bo Nickel fight this past weekend. We saw what we saw. You people are crazy if they think a wrestler that caliber couldn't wrestle up into a certain position about some time. But just like that with Jeremy Henry, he does certain things when he gets flustered and when he gets touched. He's really good when he's bullying and he's being athletic and he's using his athleticism to dominate. But he leaves so many openings and he can't stop that. Because if he stops that and tries to do something different in June, he's not Jeremy Henry anymore. So now that takes his only dangers out of the picture. He gets bound his athleticism and people being scared of contact with him, which we are not. So I will say that, and he will be finished. He will be finished when he gets in there with me. Again, we've seen so many of his fights. You've probably seen the fight he had with Zanganeh, the Iranian wrestler. You know, Jeremy is very confident, borders on cocky when he's in there. But when I see that, and you got a guy in front of you that's shaking his arms out because he's fatigued, and you're being cocky, arrogant, smiling, and you're losing the decision, it's nothing cute about that, bro. It's nothing cute about that. You're about to be on the wrong end of a decision, and you want to smile and jive at the end instead of trying to cut that dude's fucking face off. So that's the things that we know will, get him finished with us. So we're for sure gonna finish him. We'll be doing this interview again after June 13th when I have his head. So
You have a big moment coming up. June 13th, you talked about it, a fight that could help progress you to that next level. Big LFA fight. You've been thinking of this moment for so long. So, Dakota, I'm going to ask you one last question, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome June 13th when you take on Jeremy Henry in LFA 210?
perfect world, the outcome is me hitting him with anything or grabbing hold of anything that gets a finish, that gets him out of there. It finishes him. Obviously, preferably, I want it to be very violent, but if something presents itself because he makes a mistake or does something and I capitalize on something, I'll take it. But, if I have my way, perfect world, it's something violent where he's bleeding all over the place, dazed and confused, and it's looking nice and bloody because we all know Dana likes that. I want Dana to, when they're looking through that film and the matchmakers like, oh shit, I want that oh shit moment where they're like, oh, this kid's fucking violent. He goes for it, he gets it. So like I said, if something presents itself, I'll go for it. But also, if something more violent presents itself, you already know me. I'm jumping on that shit. So perfect world, whatever gets him out of there around 1, 2, 3, we know I can go 5. So that's really bad for him because when he goes 5, we see he's smiling and laughing at the end, full of fucking energy. So which means he holds something back, which means that right there that lets me know in his whole psyche. I mean, I'm thankful to him for giving me the opportunity. You know, I don't want to say too much to where he doesn't show up, which I believe he will. He's a warrior. I give him respect on that. But perfect world, it's a finish. It's a nasty finish because he met me in the center and we got after it. So.
Ooh, this one's gonna be a good one. Well, Dakota, thank you so much for your time tonight, man. It was awesome catching up with you and talking about this great fight as well as your career. You know, I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank
Excited to watch you fight.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate the opportunity, man. You know, take your time. I know it's hella late. You know, it's like you said earlier, you know, we do them early mornings, late nights, you know.
Grind
We
don't stop, baby.
grind them out. I appreciate it, and I do look forward to talking with you after I finish Jeremy Henry on June 13th, my man.
Absolutely. No, for sure. That's it for us tonight. I'm Carl Prusa. He is Mr. Dakota Hope. You can watch him LFA 220 taking on Jeremy Henry June 13th.
Yes, sir.
My fans.